Hey everyone, GuardianE here with another live reaction and first impression video for Fire Emblem Heroes. Tonight we should be getting the reveal trailer for the next Mythic Hero that they're introducing into the game. A lot of theories are being tossed around. My personal feeling is that it could be Mila. I think that'd be pretty cool. And of course, with every new legendary or mythic hero that gets added into the game, we get a new legendary or mythic banner featuring a whole host and bevy of rare, seasonal, and powerful characters to come along with it. It should be exciting because not only will we be getting the reveal of a new character with potentially implications for Ether Raids, since they have started introducing skills that cater towards Ether Raids on Mythic Heroes, but secondly, they'll also be revealing the applicability of that hero in an Ether Raid setting and the blessing that comes along with him or her. And with that, we'll be jumping into the trailer and watching it together for the first time completely uninterrupted, and then once again so that we can really break down the character itself that's introduced, as well as all of the units on the banner. So, let's take a look. Alright, here we go. See what we got here. A new mythic hero joins the battle. Chaos Goddess.
Neither holy nor base, neither angel nor devil.
Huh. Yune, Chaos Manifest, Glacies, Attack Res Bond 3. Oh wow, look at that animation.
How endearing.
Wow. Alright, so here's another list of heroes. Okay, Lyn, Brave Lyn. Oh well, we haven't seen her on a Legendary Hero banner in a while. Oh god, Ophelia. Okay, so we are getting the Halloween characters. Alright, there's Air, Legendary Azura. Blue is looking very strong this time around. Alright. Okay, so we are going to get Yune, our first green mythic hero in the game, from Radiant Dawn. You'll have to forgive me, I haven't played through Radiant Dawn, so I don't really know much about this character, other than she's Micaiah's bird, I guess, but beyond that, I don't really know anything else. So I don't have a ton of background on the character. She just kind of looks like a little girl, but I do know that she is Micaiah's bird. She's the chaos. The goddess of chaos, and her attack animation is pretty sick. So let's take a step back, rewind, watch the trailer again, and take a closer look at Yune, what she provides, what she brings to the table as far as being a mythic hero is concerned. So let's replay. All right. I gotta say,
neither holy nor base, neither angel nor devil.
Her voice is pretty deep for, let's pause here. Her voice is pretty deep and mature for how she looks. I will say that she looks a surprising amount like Mist. But anyway, she's going to be a flying green tome user, so a very unique combination, at least as far as legendary heroes / mythic heroes are concerned. She comes with the weapon Chaos Manifest. Might is 12, range 2, grants res plus 3. If a penalty inflicted by a skill like Panic or Threaten and or a negative status effect preventing counterattacks or restricting movement is active on foe, grants attack plus 6 during combat, and unit makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. So res plus 3, always solid as a tome user. If penalty inflicted by a skill like Panic or Threaten and or a negative status effect, preventing counterattacks or restricting movement, for example, is active on foe. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. It sounds like as long as there is a debuff on the enemy unit, so Panic, Threaten, any gravity effects, or that is sort of interesting because I don't know where something, for example, like how certain status effects would be classified. So like the Trilemma effect, I would assume is going to be, it's going to count as a negative status effect, even though again it's not strictly negative. But regardless, it sounds like any kind of negative effect that can be on your opponent, and that's going to be basically if your opponent's stats are red, or if they have a little icon somewhere on their chibi sprite, indicating that they are afflicted by something. At that point, Yune will get attack +6 and an automatic double. So pretty good. I'm assuming that that's going to synergize with one of the other skills that she has. So let's keep taking a look through the rest of her skills. Glacie is a 4-turn cooldown special, boost attack by 80% of the unit's res. It makes sense that she would have that. It sounds like she's going to have some pretty decent res, especially since Chaos Manifest gives her a +3 to her res stat. And it looks like you can already see from her A slot, attack res bond 3 for that A slot. Another one of the bond skills. Really, really good. Provides an attack and res boost of +5 as long as she stands adjacent to an ally during combat. Sabotage res 3. Okay, so at the start of the turn, if any foe's res is less than or equal to unit's res -3, and that foe is adjacent to another foe, inflicts -7 res on that foe through its next action. So map-wide debuff effect. It sounds like she is going to have considerable res, a pretty high res stat, so as long as there is an enemy unit that has less than or equal to 3 minus her res, and they're standing next to another enemy, they're going to get a -7 debuff to their res. So pretty good. That does have an opportunity to kind of wreak havoc on certain teams, considering that she is going to probably have a pretty high res stat. It does seem as though she's going to have a lot of opportunities to sabotage her enemy team with this skill. It's going to be a map-wide effect. We'll be able to affect multiple units at once, the condition really being that the units stick close together and will have lower res than her. Chaos named for the C slot. At start of turn, if foes within 3 columns centered on unit have res equal than or less than the unit's res -3, so again, the condition, same condition as sabotage res 3, inflicts -5 on the highest of those foes' attack speed defense res through their next action. So in calculating highest stat, treats attack as -15. Calculates each stat penalty independently. Okay, so we've got sort of a Scotty effect, similar to Fel Takumi, with his Scotty and the range of basically 3 columns around the unit vertically. And it's going to happen at the start of every single turn, so not just on turn 3, I think that Scotty happens, but essentially it's going to be an infinite range debuff. And as long as it meets the same criteria as Sabotage Res 3, with the exception it doesn't require the foes being sitting next to each other. So as long as there's an enemy that sort of sits in that range, those units will get -5 to the highest stat that they have among all of their stats. Their attack is calculated separately. Attack will be treated as -15. So the -15 to attack is meant to equalize or standardize the weapon effect, or the weapon itself that a unit is going to be carrying on the enemy team, to sort of equalize the stats a little bit so that when it's choosing the highest stat, it's not always going to default to attack. That's actually really interesting. It's almost like a super ploy, except that it's vertical only. Obviously it has a wider range as far as sitting around Yune, but it doesn't work horizontally at all. It's just vertical. It still has kind of the same similar condition of ploy, in that they have to be in the range and they have to have one of their stats lower than Yune's, so in this case res, and it's a little bit more extreme because they need to have res less than or equal to -3 Yune's res. Which makes sense because the effect is much greater. The effect essentially adapts itself to the enemy, so it's almost like an adaptive ploy, so to speak, a little bit, just because it'll pick whatever the highest stat is on the enemy unit and then debuff that one. And of course, if the enemy is debuffed to that level, or gets hit with that debuff, then of course Chaos Manifest comes into play, with its special condition being met with respect to a penalty inflicted, and therefore Yune will have a guaranteed follow-up attack and get attack +6. So So pretty interesting kit. Chaos Named is we haven't seen a skill like Chaos Named before. It's not something that's Ether Raid specific, not something that is arena specific. So it is interesting. We're going to maybe see more skills like this. I don't want to say that necessarily because the Mythic Heroes have all kind of brought in new and different types of skills that haven't really been replicated, at least thus far. But the fact that this particular debuff has a pretty easy condition to meet. 3 columns centered around the unit. She's a flying unit, so it's not as though she's limited in movement. She's going to be able to hit whoever she needs to hit. She's going to have res boosting abilities. And she's probably going to have some pretty monstrous res. So it seems like the condition is going to be pretty easy to meet. And again, it synergizes with her weapon. So pretty interesting. Of course, naturally, it also works well with other units with weapon effects that have a condition of an enemy unit being penalized. So, for example, Freed's weapon, Legendary Freed, would also take advantage of Chaos Named, and Chaos Named being in effect on his team. So bear that in mind as well. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going. Take a look at Yune's attack animations. We do get to see Glacie's proc. There we go. Alright, so she does hit for 50 twice. How endearing. Let's see how much this Glacie's hits for. 89 damage. Okay, so 36 raw damage for Glacie's means that her res is going to be at 45. It's going to be calculated at 45 here. We can consider that her weapon gives her res plus 3, so minus 3 from that, that's 42. Again, let's assume that she has the bond skill active, so that's minus 5. So that would put her at 37 resistance, again, assuming that the bond skill is active. So that is very respectable, certainly boostable as well, with certain seals and certain A-slot skills. So definitely formidable, and right around the number that you would expect for her C-slot skill to remain a threat on the enemy team. So let's keep going. Alright, so these other heroes appear in this event: Brave Lyn, Legendary Ryoma, Legendary Lucina, okay, Brave Celica, Lewin, Ophelia, Kagura, Halloween Myrrh, Halloween Mia, lots of Halloween units, Air, and Legendary Azura. Very, very nice. Let's pause here, take another gander at the roster, and break it down by color. So let's start with green, the marquee color, since Yune is a green flying mage. So the other greens on this banner are Lewin and Halloween Kagura. Both very, very strong units. Lewin certainly making waves in Ether Raids. His Forsetti is a very, very powerful weapon. He comes with Special Spiral, so has some great, great premium fodder there as well. Halloween Kagura, one of the best dagger units in the game, being in armor, having access to the fighter skills. Kagura features an amazing stat spread, really, really impressive. And further, she also has the sort of rare Desperation plus fighter combo that a lot of ranged armors have. She can use the Starfish to have built-in Desperation along with a Bold Fighter skill in order to force the double. And then, of course, there's Yune, the mythic character on this banner. So that's actually pretty stacked. All three of those units are actually very good and worth having for one reason or another. Kagura, even if you didn't want to use her, comes with Bold Fighter, I think, as well. So just really decked out as far as skills are concerned. Let's move on to blue. So blue features Ophelia, Legendary Lucina, and Legendary Azura. So this time around, blue is going to have the double Legendary Hero, meaning that blue has a pretty good chance of having one of the Legendary Heroes. If you don't have any of these characters, they're all extremely good. Legendary Lucina is great for Ether Raid shenanigans, and just in general, she has a very, very, very unique assist skill, Future Vision, allowing her to basically swap plus self-dance, self-refresh. No other unit in the game can do something like that. Legendary Azura, also very unique in that her Grey Wave skill, her Grey Wave's assist, grants an additional movement to any flying or infantry ally. And then Ophelia is just an absolute powerhouse in Ether Raids and just in general. She's really a monster on the battlefield. Her Mistletoe in conjunction with certain skills, as well as paired with allies with magical tomes and an AoE special, means that on initiation, she'll just do monstrous damage that a lot of her foes will not be able to sustain, even if she has a color disadvantage against them. So blue is pretty darn stacked as well. Moving on, we've got colorless. Colorless, we have Halloween Mia is available, as well as Brave Lynn and air. So air is always useful. Air will never not be useful, obviously, for merges for the air that everybody has. Everybody started with one air. The maximum score potential in arena, or not in arena, in ether raids, is to actually have multiple airs on your team. So even though everybody has one air, it's never a bad idea to have more than one. And she also just comes with unique skills. I mean, she comes with Mythic Boost, which is very interesting in and of itself. So again, even if you don't like to use air or you don't want to use air, she'll still actually be useful. And then we have Halloween Mia. Halloween Mia is actually very, very strong. Being a flying healer, one of the few flying healers in the game, that in and of itself is a powerful combination, but she also comes with a very unique weapon effect of reducing the enemy's cooldown charge to 0 and preventing them from accumulating additional special charge. Especially in ether raids, when you're facing off against an enemy that has an instant cooldown charge set to 0, like Ophelia, for example, it's just such a powerful ability. She can attack without being counterattacked because she can refine the dazzling effect, and her weapon effect is just so strong. Just such great utility, and being a seasonal, she wasn't widely available, and people will be able to get her now for ether raids. Brave Lynn, actually the weakest unit of the colorless, I would say, and honestly, she might even be the weakest unit out of everybody here. I'm reluctant to say that, but Brave Lynn still has her uses. She's still powerful. Don't get me wrong. Even after so much time has passed, she still has great levels of utility, and people still want to merge their Brave Lynns because she has that strength, that core strength and combination of abilities. And even at worst, she's Swift Sparrow fodder, because she'll come with Swift Sparrow. You can always fodder her for her Swift Sparrow. But that said, Brave Lynn probably bringing up the rear as far as overall power rating of the units on this banner. And moving right along onto red, we've got Halloween Myrrh, extremely powerful, tanky seasonal unit, tanky seasonal armor dragon, Brave Celica, and Legendary Ryoma. Legendary Ryoma is one of the most powerful flyers in the game. Heck, one of the most powerful sword units in the game. One of the most powerful units in the game, period. Just ridiculous offensive stat spread, huge speed. Has a unique skill that's essentially Wrath while he's a flyer, which is unique to him. Or at least part of Wrath, I should say. The plus 10 bonus, at least, for Wrath. Which is unique to him. Absolutely one of the best fire sweep sword users in the game. And Brave Celica, you don't hear a ton about Brave Celica, but she's an absolute monster. You don't hear a ton about Brave Celica, especially in light of the other Brave units that were released at the same time. But Brave Celica is an absolute monster. Her double lion plus Royal Sword, and if you swap out the Royal Sword for really anything else, the forced double that she has with double lion on initiation is absolutely ridiculous. She really just shuts down a lot of enemies and does a ton of damage on initiation. So that's really not to undersell her, because she does have a lot to offer for people that want to use her. Something of note that's actually kind of interesting is that we're not seeing Adrift Camilla on this banner. I think a lot of people were expecting as much, that she would either show up on this banner because all of the other Adrift characters were on the last legendary banner. And so people were naturally expecting her to show up on this banner as a red. She didn't appear on this banner, and she also didn't appear on the Bond Skills banner that appeared just a number of days ago, which was another opportunity for her to appear. So they might be saving her for later, which is kind of fine by me, because I'm kind of hurting in the orb department anyway. But in terms of rating these colors, it's actually kind of difficult, because honestly, this banner is pretty darn stacked. I'm going to have to say that blue might actually be the best color to pull on this banner, despite Yune being a green and being a debut, this being her debut and being a marquee character and being very unique and very interesting. Blue just has two legendary heroes, both with extremely unique utility, and Ophelia, who's an absolute powerhouse. Honestly, you really can't go wrong with getting any of the blue units. If you don't have any of the blue units, it's absolutely worth pulling on blue for this banner. After blue, honestly, I might even go with red at that point. Halloween Myrrh and Legendary Ryoma are just so strong. Brave Celica as well. I think, honestly, red and green might be tied here. Yune brings a lot to the table. We'll have to see what her actual blessing effect does specifically. Her skills are very unique, and they are, despite them not being Ether Raid specific skills, they are very useful for Ether Raids. Like I said, Kagura and Lewin, so strong. Red and green, again, I think are kind of neck and neck in terms of power. It's going to depend on what you don't have. If you don't have any of the units on either of these colors, they're definitely worth shooting for, because the units on for each of them are absolutely stacked. And right behind, I don't want to undersell it, right behind is colorless. And I don't want to discourage or say that colorless is a bad color to go for, because Halloween Mia is amazing. Air is absolutely useful, and people should be happy to get multiple copies of Air. The real issue is that Brave Lyn is here. Brave Lyn does have a lot of utility, and she is still powerful, even to today. But of these units, any of them kind of spooking or appearing in your summon circle, the one that you probably don't want to see is Brave Lyn. And she just happens to be colorless, and I think that does bring down the color a little bit, at least compared to the other colors available. So, again, my personal rating, blue is probably going to be the high priority color for people, I would think, in most instances. Again, based upon people not having any of these units, I think blue is probably the high priority, followed by green and red, sort of neck and neck, depending on whether or not you need a Mythic Hero, whether or not you have the characters on that color, and then bringing up the rear is going to be colorless. So for me personally, I'm kind of in orb saving mode. I just spent a ton of orbs, as some of you may know if you follow the channel, on the most recent seasonal banners, so I don't want to dive in too hard on this banner. I think if I do, I would go on blues, like I said, again, just to get Legendary Lucina or Legendary Azura copies. But otherwise, I actually have most of the units on this banner, so this is kind of an easy pseudo skip for me, just because even though everybody on this banner is pretty powerful, I don't actually have a pressing need for any of them. So let me know in the comments below if you're excited for Yune, if you're a big fan of Yune and you really want to pull for her on this banner. Let me know if you're looking for copies of any of these other units that are on the banner, what color you're going to be pulling for when you're going in on the banner. Certainly, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you get all of the targets that you're looking for. Hopefully you enjoyed coming along the ride with us and watching the trailer for the first time. If you did, please feel free to leave us a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more Fire Emblem Heroes content. We thank you so much for watching and for taking some time out of your day to spend with us. We really do appreciate it. And until next time, let's protect those skies.